Hello there. Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 9 of Kids Health, the Kids Health series with Lawrence August. We're on
Niner.
9, Lawrence. Correct.
999. Wow.
And we're just going to do a bit of a recap today. We're going to share our experiences at the workshop that Lawrence led last week at a charter school in downtown LA that I was his little assistant for. And we're going to just share some of our thoughts and synapses of what's been going on lately with that. Yeah. How are you, Lawrence?
I'm doing really well. Happy holiday weekend and
Happy holiday
Easter and all
weekend.
that.
I got
Did
my
you have
Easter
a?
egg
I
colors.
love the colors. Did you have a good Friday?
It was so good.
It was a good
And
Friday.
yes, a lot of reflection.
A lot
I
of
reflected a
reflection.
lot.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mirror, mirror on
Yeah.
the wall. First of all, Heidi, thank you. I want to publicly thank you here on this show for coming through and really saving the day and helping me out at that event. So
You're so welcome. It was so fun to see you in action. Like, first of all, you tower above everyone. If anyone doesn't know, this is a 6'3", is it, or 4? Like, well,
6'3".
Lawrence is a tall fella, and he's just cruising through the tables. How's everybody doing over here? And they're like,
Yeah,
but
when
he
you're
had
working
it.
with kids and you're 6'3",
Yeah,
going
he
to
had
elementary
every.
schools is fun in the bathrooms when the sinks are
Mhm.
at my kneecaps. It's a good time.
But you had thought of, you had every detail, you had everything prepped. And this, by the way, is for Rainbow Chefs Academy. And Rainbow Chefs is a company, an organization that Lawrence is on the board of. And we were working at a charter school, Synergy Charter, and doing this family science night. And it was so lovely. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it was such a treat. I think our first group of kids that came through, I was more like this with Lawrence, like watching my friend go. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do stuff.
The healthy helper Heidi. So we healthy Heidi, you were amazing. Yeah, it was great. With chefs, we were demonstration to that school, and they're inner city charter, a lot of, like, a bit of an underserved community. So kind of bringing health and wellness into that environment was neat, and all done through the lens of science. It was a family science night. And so we were taking a fun little activity where we were having the kids put together a Mediterranean dip, like an olive oil with some spices and some garlic and some fun stuff, and then have a little sampling of some vegetables. And Heidi, what else?
Fruits, because
Fruit, right? So, well,
cucumbers are
Heidi,
fruit.
what did you learn? What did you learn?
From the teacher herself. Yeah, that you wait. I'm sure there'll be some laughter here, but yeah, if it has a seed, it is a fruit. If it's so, we had a fruit and veggie plate, and we asked the children, like, who can pick out the fruit on the plate, and there were lemon wedges and things. They're like lemons, but there were a few that caught on. They're like cucumbers, red peppers.
Yeah,
We had a fruit and veggie plate.
talked
So
about
the
the olive
intercraft service
oil.
girl in me was crying. I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
That was kind of a cool little, fun little eye opener for a lot of most of the
Yeah.
kids, and even some of the parents, and
Oh
you
yeah.
yourself. And so it was just kind of like really fun little thing where we had 3 groups that night, and they came through, and we just sort of demonstrated, how to work together collectively, which I thought was fun, because they're all kind of teaming up on this little recipe. And I think that my aim with that was to really excite the kids on where their food comes from, to give them a deeper sense of appreciation. I'm really big on that. I think that one of the big challenges we face today is that food is very easily accessible, and that's a great thing, right? But we also are missing out a bit on that connection that we've had for eons and eons of, working the soil and picking the crops and chopping and cutting and preparing and cooking and at home. And we don't really have enough of that these days. And so,
Right.
where it all started in the presentation was where I kind of talked about the earth moving through space, right? And collecting all that interstellar material, all that stardust, and going into the creation of our soil. And I think that was really neat for the kids, and kind of went into the you are what you eat, and that realization that, you're stardust. You're part of you is,
You're a
you're all
star,
stars,
baby.
right? We are literally like consuming the galaxy, quite literally. And so it was, that kind of process. We learned a little bit about photosynthesis. Heidi was
Chlorophyll.
awesome
It's like, where
presenting
are we?
presenting presenting that. And I think that just that basic introduction that we did, it was just so much fun. And I feel like part of what was so cool about it being a science night is I love the scientific method. And I think that we can use it in our own life. We can use it in a sense of experimenting what we like, what we don't like. We can use it to ask better questions, kind of A/B test, if you will. I thought it was fun, Heidi. Remember when I was going around the tables and asking the kids 1 to 10 how much they liked,
Yes.
right?
I was
So
just
tell
into that.
tell
Yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about
Well, no,
that.
I love that because there were several groups of tables and they're adding these herbs to the mixture and and then they get to taste it. And
Mhm.
he's literally asking, okay, from 1 to 10, do you like it? And there's some kids who are like 0. But how you handled it, Lawrence, was that empowerment thing I love so much that you do with the students. And what was it? Now you tell.
Well, yeah,
What were
that
you?
was
Yeah.
that was I just love doing this, and I think, and for the parents, I think that was what was also great is we had the parents at the tables, and so I was aware of that, and what you're sort of trying to demonstrate is this technique of being able to just meet children where they're at and not fight if they don't like something, and kind of actually use that as a springboard for better conversation. And in the sense of science, it was just a great opportunity saying, okay, it's a 0. And then it's like, well, first of all, that's not 1 to 10. uh, but that does tell us a lot about how much you like or how little you like what we did. And so now we have a great opportunity. And it was kind of like, everybody listen up. Let's find out. Let's ask a question. What was it that you didn't like? Okay, can we identify that? Was it too salty, not enough salt? Did you not like the Parmesan? Too many spices, a little too much of this or that. And then what we can do is we can ask a question, what could make it better? Right? And this is critical. I don't want to leapfrog over this piece. It's that 1 to 10, I love going to that. You can find out where people are at, and then regardless of where their answer is, you can use that to further and deepen conversation and bring out and move people toward being solution minded. Not just throwing up,
Yeah.
oh, you didn't like it, well, forget it.
Yeah. Or
Oh,
try
you
it
don't like it.
again.
Oh, I'm frustrated. Well, just try it again. You can use a simple technique of, okay, 1 to 10, it was a 2. How could we maybe make that a 4? Not even maybe make it a 10. Maybe how could it be a little better? And the answer might be they don't know yet. Okay, maybe we have to try. And then we had some children that were just, I loved it.
You're like 11.
11. It's like, that's not 1 to 10 either. But why was it? And what did you like about it? And now that, and great, guys, right? You love it. So now it's something that you can go home, and they all have the recipe there, and you can make that yourself. And beyond that, I think that hands-on thing, which many children just have simply never done. They've never done an activity like that in their life, in their short little lives. They haven't really gotten their hands on just putting together something.
Yeah.
And to further that, just the store-bought items, the things that the convenience foods that, okay, well, if I know how to make this, again, the empowerment, I know how to make it. I can adjust it the way that I would like. Right now, all of a sudden, the sky's the limit, and it opens the door to, just trying on more complicated recipes. And at the level that we were at the grade school level, 2 and 3 ingredient recipes are just great, or simple little dips like what we did. And it
Well,
was
it did have a lot of
it's
ingredients.
just great.
It did have a lot of ingredients. It wasn't too simple in that sense, but
Well,
there were a bunch of herbs. Yeah.
yeah. So
You could
essentially
smell them.
herbs
Yeah.
and oil and some Parmesan.
Yeah.
But that, and then there's some chemistry that goes into that. And so it was just awesome. And by the way, we
Yeah.
got really great feedback from the school. So
Yes. Yes. And
yeah.
I want to share this actually to check out this organization because we're going to hear more from it. And I think it's a brilliant. I mean, we've heard of this before. We got to get in and fix the school lunches. And yeah, that's one thing, but we also need to empower the children to learn the steps of how to do it themselves too. This is about
Right.
empowerment, and that's I
Right.
think where
It's
Rainbow Chefs excels. Mhm.
yeah, for sure. And being able to, we're creating platform where, this all aligns with STEAM and STEM and Castle and NGSS and, kind of school curriculum, that food, there's so much that can go into it. You can learn so much through the different courses that we put forward.
Yeah.
And, this idea of, change from within, again, it's just, you're just trying to kind of create something new that will hopefully
Mhm.
begin to displace, the existing paradigm. There's such an incredible um, range of what's out there with schools, right? Whether it's charter, public, private. The food service directors in different districts are going to vary to their level of commitment and the resources they have. There's budget
And
constraints.
budgets.
There's a
Mhm.
lot of locked in contracts that, even if you wanted to kind of get in there and make changes, just simply it's untenable. There's red tape. It's a fascinating world to explore. And for parents, like, my thing with that is that, again, like I said, those are all great things to pursue, those kind of future endeavors. But for parents that their child is 7, 8, 9, 10 now, we can't wait for them. Waiting around for, public change to occur, which is 5 years out or whatever, that's simply not going to cut it. We need practical, immediate action steps that they can do. So that's kind of what I'm big about. It's, when I'm meeting with parents, I discuss this. It's, yeah, we could, the school and the public health system, all these things, great. But what can we do? What can we do
Yeah.
right now today in our own home? And if we all do that, that that's where the real power is. When it comes from the people, it can't
Yeah.
come from top down.
Yeah.
I think of the civil rights movement, and it wasn't until the public, right, the Rosa Parks, kind of thing, where it wasn't until the public spoke up that the politicians sniffed out what the public wanted, and then just, they had no desire to change things until then, the Jim Crow laws and all these things. So the public needs to kind of take it upon themselves to pave the way, I think. So,
Yeah.
it's exciting to get into the schools, but to also reach the homeschool crowd.
Yeah.
um
Ooh,
right.
ooh.
Yeah. And just, that's, to me, is because at the end of the day, you're going to have to be responsible for your health, and that's extremely empowering when people get that idea that their
Oh,
health
yes.
is in their hands.
Yes, and the health of it all and where your food comes, just to set up a little bit for the next episode, we are
Yeah.
going to be diving deep. We're not aware. We're going to dive deep into glyphosate and what is happening to our soil and our foods and all that. But
Yeah,
you
it's
kind of don't
very
want to go in with that first with the kids. Hey, this is poison.
yeah. That stuff is heavy, but it's real. We need to take a look at
It's
it,
real.
and there will be definitely a future episode with you and I where we, explore what's going on with what's in our food, how our food is cultivated, agriculture, the
Yeah.
comparison of agriculture in the States versus around the world. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And the
And
tools of how to teach your child it, because there's a certain way to deliver this information to a
correct.
child without numbing them and freaking them out, pretty
Right.
much. Mhm.
Right. Yeah. It could be that
Sciency.
that is the line that we walk, right? That's the
Yeah.
line that we walk, is that the bottom line is there are some pretty heavy realities and material that, you know, at the same point, because it's heavy, because it's so critical, it should be a common knowledge and public knowledge, but the way to deliver the message matters. Because I think that we have to always check ourselves on coming from that place of fear. It's just there are certain things where, like, I'm taking that on day to day because of my job and because of my work. My inbox every day is full of all sorts of interesting and peculiar stuff that, myself, I have to be able to navigate through that calmly, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, spooking people out about certain things can paralyze them. I'm
They
actually
won't even try.
optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm actually optimistic. I choose to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I choose to frame things from that point of view. Is that what we had? The 20th century was an experiment that went a little sideways. And the cool thing about human beings is that, when we get a read on something, we're great at adapting, and we're great at adjusting. And I do believe that we have that power, not only as a society, but individuals, right? That's what I'm all about, is the individual, because the society is nothing more than a collection of individuals. So you have to empower the individual
Yeah.
to create a powerful society. And so it's
Yes.
that, ground levels, that bottom up push, at the
Yeah.
ground level. So
Yeah.
just really excited to see where the future is going to go.
Well, speaking of,
Absolutely.
this would be a good segue into the how do we segue the future AI, this push. How can you correlate this to what you're doing? Because I know
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
using some programs now, and I know I'm the tinfoil gal who's like transhumanist agenda. But there is this ushering in. How do we bring it in and balance it and not
yeah.
let it
There's
overtake us? Mhm.
there's such a, it always goes to that, with great power, great responsibility sort of thing. I mean, and I understand all the arguments from every side on technology and the trade-offs. And to your point about the things that I've been using, I mean, ChatGPT is sort of one example. There's a lot of other little AI programs I'm engaging with. First of all, it's absolutely mind-blowing, the collection of human consciousness that's been infused into technology that can deliver, just really profound results. And it's moving so fast that I can hardly keep up. I have a friend who he texts me. He texts me every day these, like, updates, and I'm just like, I can't. There's 20 new things a day. But what I've
Wow.
realized, is that rather than fighting it, trying to see where we can use some of the technology for our own benefit, and to help actually um, increase our ability to learn, because it could be very tempting to outsource the technology so much, where we've actually kind of just lobotomized ourselves, right? Where we just kind of, like, leave
That's
our
what I
brain on
think
the
the
table.
fear is.
But we can
Yeah,
really
that's the
use the
fear.
technology. Yeah, and I've used, and I gave you one example before we started taping, of how, I just went into ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, what are some things, I could be thankful for? Give me 50 things I could be thankful for, about my health, that have nothing to do with weight or appearance. And it just generates, in 2 seconds, you get this great list of things that you could be grateful for. And the big point of that is the prompts, right? These are what drive AIs, is that we can be responsible for those prompts, for those questions, for those inputs, for what we would like to get back. And if we can learn to ask questions, and this is one thing I want to teach everybody, all of my clients, is let's ask empowering questions. What's good about this? What could we learn from this? Why is this a great opportunity? Right? If we ask a question of, like, why do I always fail? Why am I such a screw up? Get that answer. You think about going into a GPT prompt. Why am I such a bad kid? Example, extreme example, but okay, here's your answers. But what can we be thankful for? What are ways here's my situation. What are ways that what is a plan that I could put together to help get me through it? And I've used this tool to help generate for myself good questions for consultations, right? I can input specifics on what I'm looking to address in the client. And it's unbelievable. It's things that are completely outside the box often. And even you can even ask AI to generate those outside of the box ideas. So yes, I have, I have my concerns about where this all could go, kind of Terminator, and you know, at the
Yeah.
same time, it's not going anywhere. It's clear. We're bathed in it. So, I'm trying to meet it where it's at and trying to use it responsibly and for good, if you will.
Well, didn't you also like generate meals for a kid? Like you did a
Yeah,
weekly meal
yeah.
thing? Like that was
So we
cute.
did
And
this. This was really fun, right? So what we did was first I had a session with him where we kind of found out all the foods that he liked from the different categories. What are proteins that you like? What are some carbohydrates that you like? What are some good fats that you might want to have? What are some vegetables? We did it all, right? And then it was, okay, let's see how many ideas you could come up with that combine those. And so he did a great job through the week of doing that. And then, with mom's kind of green light, we had mom on the call, and we went ahead and we went on ChatGPT and we inputted all of those ingredients and said, can you give us some recipe ideas? And it spit out all of these wonderful recipes. And then, okay, can you give me details on how to make each of those recipes? And it told us exactly how to make all those recipes within minutes, seconds, really. And then what we did, it got brought up of Taco Tuesday. And so we said, could you name these meals after each day of the week? Give them fun names. And then all of a sudden the meals all had fun names. Now all of a sudden we're all having a great time laughing. And then it was, could you make a song out of this? And it just generated a song. And so we were able to kind of use it as a partner. And I think that at its best, that's where AI can be, as an assistant. But what I'm trying to do with the children, the parents, is saying, okay, here's a great way to do this, right? Where you're asking a question specific to you, and then you're able to solve problems very quickly. So now the take-home message was, there are no more excuses on how do I make that, or what could I make with that? Because you could say, well, I need something that I can make in 15 minutes or less, and it'll tell you. And we could probably do
this
a
is
whole show on that, where
Rosie.
we just pull up ChatGPT on the computer.
It's like it's Rosie from the Jetsons. Do you remember Rosie?
Right. Yeah. And so I
You
think
know, I Mhm. Go ahead.
as long as this technology is here and we're having to deal with it, let's try to leverage it in our favor. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the power to avoid the Terminator timeline. And I like how you said it's here, it's not going anywhere. So we have to be empowered and educated enough to use it smartly. We are still the users of it. And as far as the whole transhumanist agenda takeover, yes, I saw the usher in, but I also see my choices in choosing my own adventure can alter my own timeline of using things appropriately and smartly. So thank you for introducing ways to using that. I'm still just
I
figuring out
think
how to
so.
edit on StreamYard, so I'm not too worried about robots taking over my house, um,
Yeah,
but I do appreciate your input.
believe me, there's always there's always everything is a trade-off. I really am a believer in that. Is that, the more we outsource, but we also have to be careful what we're giving up in exchange.
Right.
And it's what I love about Rainbow Chefs is the emphasis on hands-on, because at the end of the day, we're flesh and blood, right? We are human, right? And we have to draw that line. And we're made of organic matter, and we need real food, in our very real bodies. And I think that it's a beautiful thing that there is, that kind of struggle that makes it worthwhile. And I think the other danger, I just want to close out this AI thing, is that what we have to be careful with all technology is what can happen with our mental health when we're too reliant. That
Good one.
big part of our mental health is the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of doing something on our own. And we have to remember that, because if it gets to the point where everything is doing things for us, and this is a very fascinating thing to consider, is that if you have a whole society like that, where eventually the machines take over, the irony is that society then forgets how to do things. And it can kind of spell the end of that civilization, because it's just like, why do things if there's no need? And so I'm a big believer of this kind of hybridization of, real old timey skills, know how to knit and sew and plant and garden and water and, tend to plants. And, a simple herb garden can be a great introduction to that, because we find that, like, when children can take care of something like that, like a little herb garden, and watch it grow, and then that ends up on their plate in their salad, that is such a beautiful feeling, and it's so great for their mental and emotional well-being. And this is important. This is why it matters.
Yeah.
We don't want to give that up. The ability
No.
to chop vegetables and smell the herbs cooking in the kitchen and coming together as a family for family time, that cannot be replaced by AI,
And it
guys. So
and it won't. Yeah, it should
yeah.
not.
So
I
those are
like how
the
you said that.
trade-offs that I'm
Mhm.
concerned about.
Well, that's our learning center. They do that's the skills. There's handwork, there's the gardening, there's the food to table, farm to table. But then, like, we had that experience at that inner city charter last week where that is not what is offered. So we have to be able to provide these tools and this education system that has these things to merge it all. Here's the way to use your hands. Here's the soil. I loved how you introduced the whole night with about the soil. No one thinks about it's a collection of all these dimensions
Oh,
in the
these things,
soil.
right? It's different than
You
just
start with
dirt.
that. It's tangible. Yeah, it's tangible. We've all had our hands in the dirt. Now let's have them take the seed now, and it's very empowering. So yes, I thank
Immune
you for that.
system, right? A real quick tip, guys. I mean, that immune system needs training, right? And children naturally put dirt in their mouth. They love to eat it. And that is nature. That is us experiencing our environment, interacting with it, and teaching our immune system to behave in accordance with that. The immune system needs to be taught. And the hyper sanitized, overly hygiened world that we've been asked to live in has removed that. And so the increase in asthma, allergies, right, these things can be strongly attributed to this. And so there's also just a very physical reason, not just the mental health and aspects, but our immune system, getting outdoors, right? Electrons, right? Getting our feet on the ground, right? Grounding, earthing, it's been called, right?
The best.
There's an abundance of electrons that
Yeah.
are
And
looking to donate to your body, right?
I literally feel like after a binge on my phone or something, when you feel that radiation and you're just like, I literally put my hands on the earth and it's like sucks it right out. We can work together with the planet to keep ourselves balanced and healed through all this tech, through the
Yes,
tech stuff.
absolutely.
Balance,
Absolutely. Hug
balance,
a tree,
empowerment.
get those electrons.
Literally to feel better. Like we have, like, or those crazy rain days we had. And we were just consumed, or I binged a show or something. I put my phone in the plant. And then, I'd literally be like, this is my shamrock, goes everywhere with me.
Oh my God, I
And I
love
tell
it. Heidi, just give that a hug. I love that. I love it.
the kids do. I go, you guys, we've been on too long. Just put your hands on it. And you feel the warmth of that radiation. You feel it dissipate. And then we'll sit in a tub. Like, we are empowered mutants that are navigating what's happening to our planet. And we can have the doomsday perspective, or we can have the dodge and weave. Like, I got this. I could do this. I'm going to use the tools given to me to navigate this. And there's the empowerment of the child. Like, oh, I know what to do here. I picture my
These are
son like,
tools.
put your hand
These
in a
are
plant.
all tools. All
Yeah.
right. We
Yeah.
work. We have a
Tools.
lot of tools, and knowing which tools to use, how to use them, the best way to use them that'll benefit us in the most possible ways. And that kind of setting yourself up for, making some things challenging, and this is why we need the physical world, because the physical world will challenge us. We need to become stronger people. That requires challenges and this understanding. And I think one of the big fallacies out there is that, you can sort of have it all without any kind of, you can sort of just get and never have to give and never put in. Because we're so used to being convenienced by the modern world that we almost feel the entitlement, and forgetting that, we actually have a moral obligation to produce and to put forward and put into and contribute. And so it all matters in this, our ability, to contribute, and that is forged. The strongest steel is forged through the hottest fire. So, it's a rub. I don't know if you know the White Stripes.
Oh, sure.
The White Stripes, yeah. So this just analogy comes to mind, is that Jack White, amazingly talented musician, right? He could buy a brand new guitar, right? But he would tend to like to play guitars that could hardly hold tune. And why? Because he said, I like the battle of making that guitar bend to my will. And, I went to see them in concert, and he had like the piano on one side and he had his, bass on the other side. He said, I want to make it a challenge on the stage. I want to feel alive. I want to work for it. I want to run over to the piano, and now I got to get this part in. That stuck with me because it speaks to this thing of like that sometimes, we almost have to purposely set up challenges for ourselves to provide that healthy level of stress, that healthy stressor. So when we do that, we can meet the world being very resilient. And I think it's just brilliant to sort of set that up. And that's kind of what exercise is. That's what challenging yourself is. And we should promote that, because we need that, because with all the ease that we're getting, all the convenience that we're getting, the very real possibility is we're going to miss out on the beauty of struggle. And so it's something that to think about.
Oh, gosh.
Think about that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a
I think we're
discipline too, but yeah, but the accomplishment, we'll wind it down.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with my daughter with that. Is like finishing something that you start, is that accomplishment. It fills you up. It feels good. It's a high vibe. You're like, yes, I did this. Whether that's exercise or making good choices or empowerment, it feels good,
Right.
and we want the feel good.
We want that. We want it, and that the feeling of overcoming, growing, and in that spot where, if it's too much order, we're going to get stagnant. If it's too much chaos, we feel overwhelmed. And to kind of try to push ourselves into that border of chaos and order, and we find that through taking on challenges and struggles and things that are a little, out of our comfort zone. For a lot of people, cooking is that, nutrition is that.
Yeah.
And I said, this is a great thing, because when you get there, and now you can, 6 months later, you're making all these dishes. You can make dinner for your family. You know how many 14, 15-year-olds that went from, I don't even know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, to I'm cooking like 5-course meals for the family, and now I want to go to culinary school. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And food has been cultural. It brings communities together, it brings people together. It's where we sit, and we can do it in a healthy way. And that was what was also so great about the workshop, to kind of bookend this whole thing, was that you could get that sense in the room that we were all together. I said, in the spirit of cooperation, and how we had to pick our lemon squeezers, and passing the bowl around, whisking, teaching them the proper technique. And they were able to problem solve together, little rock, paper, scissors games for picking and choosing. Because you do see that with kids, like, oh, I want to do it. And then when they get that spirit of cooperation, that they're working toward a common goal. So there's so many opportunities to use food, cooking, nutrition, and mealtime to knit our communities and families back together. It's just so profound. There's so many, so beyond just nutrition, so beyond that. Drop the
So
mic.
beautiful. Yes, that was a mic drop moment. I want to share again, folks, if you have not checked it out, rainbowchefsacademy.com. And then, of course, the lovely and amazing
Absolutely.
kidsgethealthy.com. That is Lawrence.
What?
Yes, that is. Please check it out. You can contact Lawrence at kidsgethealthy.com. And Lawrence, I want to thank you profusely for 9 whole episodes of teaching me too, but of sharing these empowering tools, how to empower the child, how to educate the child, and just how to communicate and connect with your child. It's just been
Connection
such a
before
beautiful
correction.
journey. Pardon? What was
Connection
it?
before correction.
Boom. I mean, people do that with their dogs. You got to do that with your kids too. Like, come on.
Right?
And that goes for guardians, guardians, siblings, educators, everyone is around a child. So this is important information for everybody to know. So if you have not checked them out yet, we do have the 8 episodes up on Rumble under our Kids Health series. They're also on YouTube and my little channel that could on Lawrence's channel. He has the playlist. Please, take a look at what we've been chatting about. And we do look forward to coming back. We're going to get into some of what's been happening to our food, just a little more education and conversation about that. And of course, the empowerment of what we can do about it. So, Lawrence, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Amen.
Thank you again so very much. What a beautiful spring conversation. And I just look forward to how this is all unfolding. Thank you again for all your time and all that you are and do. That's my favorite.
Likewise, Heidi, you're the best. Thank you again. 9
You're
of
so
them.
very
9
welcome.
down.
9 down. I'm going to close this out again with an absolutely fabulous, what do we call it? A commercial for Kids Get Healthy? It's your trailer.
Kind of trailer. It's kind of for what will be coming in the coming months and years. The growth of Kids Get Healthy. It's now moving beyond me into something much bigger that I'm excited to watch unfold. In the coming months.
So proud of you. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful spring
Have
break
a great
and
Easter,
holiday.
everyone.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. We'll see you again. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.